Hey everybody, how are you? This is Carmela at Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived, and I'm here with my partner, my baby girl, Jeannie. Hi, honey. How are
Hi,
you?
everybody. I'm good. How are you?
Good, I'm good. This is episode 29. I can't
Can you
believe we have
believe
29
it?
episodes in. I
Wow.
can't. I can't. Anyway, today we're going to be interviewing Justin Race. He's the son of Harley Race. And I'm so excited to get to this. We were going to do a whole bunch of announcements, but I think what we'll do, because he's having some internet trouble, I think we're going to do maybe, Jeannie, is wait till the end to make our announcements. This way,
Okay.
when we disconnect with Justin, then we can come back on and do our announcements. All right. So we're going to bring him on now. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we are very excited, very proud to present Justin Race. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Hello, everyone. How you
Good to
doing?
see you. We're
Hey,
Good to
good.
finally
Justin.
Thanks.
meet with you.
Pardon me?
It's good to finally meet with you.
I know. It's been great. I know that you guys have had some really terrible weather down there.
The
Um,
Hurricane
Yeah,
Helene, right?
we didn't get it. We didn't get rain. I mean, nothing like in the Carolinas. Boy, those poor people there are just awful. And have to apologize. I'm sitting out on my patio on my phone because AT&T internet there's an outage in our area, whatever that
okay.
means.
Where are you
There was an
from,
outage for
Justin?
Verizon a couple of days, so I'm having to use my cell phone instead of my laptop. So I apologize to everyone out there.
No problem. Where are you from? Where are you calling from right now?
Kansas City.
Ah, okay, gotcha. All right. Well,
Mhm.
I went on the internet today and I pulled up Wikipedia of your dad and blah blah blah. And I know I talked to you a little bit before, and I told you my dad knew your dad. Okay.
Yes.
My dad, God bless him, he just passed away 2 years ago. He was
Oh, sorry
95.
to hear that.
Yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
I go back way back. I've been involved in wrestling for 60 years, and
wow.
yeah,
Longer than
my
I have.
dad. I'm sorry.
Longer than I have.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But anyway, we go back a long way for a lot of different reasons. But he used to talk to your dad when your dad was at the matches and stuff like that. I never went and talked to your father because I was afraid of him. He put up an appearance. He had a persona because I was little, so he had a persona
Yeah.
that was, kind of like, you know.
Uh,
But my
oh, you're
dad
not the
said he
first
was
person to
great.
say that. You're
I'm the
not the
first
first
person.
person to
Oh,
say.
okay,
No, you're not the first person.
okay.
Everyone was intimidated by him. They didn't know he was a big teddy bear.
No, my dad said that. He said, "Don't be afraid. He's nice." I said, "No, no, I don't want to." But I decided that we're not going to just read through some of the Wikipedia stuff. We're a podcast that's predominantly made up of stories. So I'm just
hmm
going to let you say whatever you want. Tell us about your dad. Tell us. I know he passed when you were younger, but tell us
He
something about your
passed.
dad.
He passed 5 years ago, so I wasn't that young.
Oh yeah,
Um,
okay, there you go. You're right.
um, well, growing up with my dad was, I mean, obviously it was a very unique way to grow up. But on the other hand, I didn't know any difference.
Right.
So, like I've always said, it would be weird if my dad was home for dinner at 5 o'clock. That would have been weird.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
or whatever. Or got up and went to work at 9. That would have been weird. So, but I was very blessed. I got to travel with him. He was like the first real traveling world champion in that. I mean, they worked him to death. He wrestled 300 plus days a year, um, almost always for an hour. Another 2 or 3 weeks traveling. So if I wanted to be with my dad when I was a kid, I traveled with him.
Right.
And the promoters, whether it was Sam Nushnick here in the Central or Central States or out of St. Louis, of course, or Bubba or Dan Miller in Australia or whatever. They were very kind in that they flew my mom and I with my dad when he worked
Oh,
in their territories.
that was nice.
So people think that if your father wrestled that much, you never saw your dad. I spent a lot of time with my dad and my mom. The three of us together when I was a kid. It
Hmm.
just wasn't at home. It was a
Right.
hotel in some city and sightseeing places or whatever. So we spent a lot of time together. It just wasn't at home. But I mean, I was so blessed. I was in 12 countries before, no, 10 countries before I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
And so, It was unique. It had its challenges, but I was also very blessed.
What did you do about school?
My mom was my tutor.
Okay,
I
well, no,
just
that's
took,
a lot of children, even to this day, especially, get tutored, or they get homeschooled while they're traveling, because
sure.
today most of the children travel with their parents now.
Yes, yes. Well, and that's another reason why I traveled with him so much. And I was born in 1970, so in the mid 70s, when I was old enough to at least walk through the airport on my own and carry my own little bag or whatever, so I
Hmm.
didn't leave it all up to my mom. Until I got to high school, where classes got harder and it was harder for my mom to tutor me, and I had my own sports that I couldn't miss. But for all those years, for that almost decade that my dad was NWA champion, um, I traveled with him. My parents, I remember in like second or third grade, they went to my teacher and they said, "We're going to take Justin, if it's okay, we're going to take Justin out of school for a month and go to
Hmm.
Japan." And the teacher just said, "Go ahead. He's going to learn more there than he is here anyway."
Yeah,
So,
that's
about
crazy.
culture and other people and whatnot. So my mom and the teacher would go over all the assignments and the homework and whatever. And each day when I was traveling, we'd have an hour or two where it was schoolwork, dedicated to schoolwork. It wasn't just vacation, fun and games. I had to do my schoolwork
Hmm.
and do my homework. And then poor teacher, I just pile it all on her desk when I get home. And she had to go
Oh,
through a
yeah.
bunch of my stuff.
Yeah, she had a
Um,
lot of work to go over, huh?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But my mom was a highly intelligent woman, and she had no problems tutoring me. Again, until I got to high school, I took some pretty high level math and high level physics classes and literature classes, and also
Hmm.
I had my own sports. I wanted to be a professional football player, so I couldn't miss football games. I mean, there was only 8 of them, so
Hmm. Yeah,
if you're going to make an impression for college recruiters and whatever, you have to play the games.
exactly. So tell us a little bit about what the differences were with your father. Like, did he like turn into Harley Race when he left you guys, or we had Barbara Goodish on here, and she was telling us about Bruiser Brody, and she said,
Yeah,
like, yeah, he'd have his hair in a ponytail, and then all of a sudden when he got to the airport, out would come the band, and his hair would be like this, and he would just turn into Bruiser Brody. Like, was your dad
yeah.
like that too?
Not No, in that, Brody, he was like my dad didn't really have a gimmick. Frank had a gimmick. He was nuts,
Yeah.
and and for lack of a better word, and my dad was always very kind to the fans. He'd stop in airports, sign autographs. He didn't really. He turned into Harley Race when he got in the ring. But otherwise, no, he was back in the dressing room, whatever. He was just dad. Joked around with the wrestlers and the old ribbing that goes on with wrestling.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah.
so he did a lot of that. And then when we travel with him, I mean, some of the most memorable times I had with my father were traveling, not like to Japan or whatever, but traveling between towns here in America. Because after wrestlers always go to the next town the night after the matches. They're night
Hmm.
owls. They just like to drive at night. And my mom and dad would always get once a year they'd get a big van and customize it and whatever. I had a video and a video machine and TV and refrigerator and whatever in
Nice.
this van. And that's how we'd travel around. Well, my most fond memories though were after the matches when we were going to the next town, and my
Hmm.
mom she'd go back in the bed in the van and sleep, and I'd sit up front with my dad and we'd talk, and I was the official uh, salami cutter, cheese slicer, and bartender.
Oh my God, that's funny. I bet you were. So
Seven,
what
six,
was your,
7 year old bartender.
pardon me?
A
Say that
six,
again. I
seven
didn't
year
hear
old
you.
bar.
No.
A 6, 7 year old bartender.
That's crazy. Who
So
was the
that's what
disciplinarian in your
that's what my
family?
dad. that's when my dad and I talked, and that's why, he'd ask me about school and, just normal father-son conversations. We were just going 110 mile an hour down the road and eating sausage, cheese, and drinking beer.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What was he like as a disciplinarian? Was he the disciplinarian, or was your mom?
Oh, my mom was.
Yeah, see, my
Even,
mom was
I
too.
mean, he didn't, he wasn't around at home. And when he was at home, I mean, sometimes he'd take me out of school when he was at home because it was so rare. And he and I'd go
Right.
out and goof around, and we were like best buddies. When he'd come home
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I mean, there were weeks, months that would go by without seeing him at all. And then he'd come home and be off for a week. I say off, he still wrestled, but it was around the Kansas City area. But so yeah, we were like two little buddies hanging out with each
Oh,
other and doing things together. And but my mom, so in that light, my mom pretty much let us do what we wanted. Um, she figured, well, whatever character, whatever manners or gentlemanness that Justin's been taught that he loses screwing around with his dad, I'll rekindle after his dad goes back on the road.
that's
I
funny.
mean,
Yeah,
my
I
dad,
bet.
well, my father was a gentleman. I'm talking more like, oh, I was told, of course, I don't remember this. When I'd sit in the height chair, um, things like, my dad I was kind of like the apple of his eye. So anything I did, he thought it was funny. And if I threw my food on the floor, rather than, kind of sternly say that's not the right thing to do, whatever, he'd just throw his food on the floor.
Oh, did he really? Oh,
And my mom's back there going, "Oh God, I'm gonna have to reteach this kid everything when his father leaves."
oh my
Um,
God. Oh my God. He
so I mean,
sounds
he never.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so he never. I mean, now did he discipline me? Absolutely, but he did. I didn't need to get yelled at or grounded. I just got one of those promo looks, and you did what? It's like, oh shit.
Oh my God,
So
I love it. I just love it.
that was enough.
That's
That was enough.
that's
My mom.
yeah, that's enough to scare you, right?
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't like scared of him. I just knew that when you see your father, who's a very famous person, and you disappoint them, that's enough. And so
Yeah.
he just knew that I was disappointed, and so that's all it took. I was like, oh man, I screwed up, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, I get that. I do. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, where in all the traveling you did with your father, where was the best place that you enjoyed the most time seeing? Like, you saw so many countries, you said 11.
Well, I mean, there's countries that I enjoyed visiting: Australia, Japan, when he was working. But probably my favorite place that we went was Hawaii because he didn't work in Hawaii. We would
Okay.
stop in Hawaii on the way either to Japan or Australia or from Australia. And wrestling at night. So we actually got to be a family, just sitting on the beach, doing whatever. People didn't bother him for autographs and what. I mean, they did sometimes, but not a lot. And
Yeah.
we just got to be a family. And at the end of the day, and rather than going in from the beach and him having to get ready and go to the arena or the stadium or whatever to work, we'd go out to dinner like a normal family.
Nice. That's nice.
So
It,
that's probably my
it,
favorite places is the times when we would go someplace that he didn't have to work because 90% of the 99% of the time, mom and I were on vacation and he was working. He was
okay.
vacation during the day, sightseeing, spending his time with us during the day, and then of course at night he'd have to work.
So now, when he came up to what was then the WWF or WWF, um, what were his feelings about wrestling up this way, like with Vince McMahon and that kind of stuff? Did he have
Well,
a preference?
he didn't like it, but he understood. There's writing on the wall that when things start to turn a certain direction, you can either stick your head in the sand and not follow, or you can join. Not, I wouldn't say follow, but you can join in with it. And people, they want to remember Harley as Handsome Harley Race, the 8-time NWA champion. Well, because a lot of people didn't like the Harley Race thing, and I've explained to people that at first Vince I mean, they agreed to do this king thing, but my dad knew what he was doing.
Hmm.
Um, Vince thought it would be a gimmick, and that's what he was thinking about. Was it was just a gimmick. But
Right.
it turned out that he actually became the king of wrestling, just like Arnold Palmer is the king of golf,
Yeah.
or Richard Petty is the king of NASCAR. Um, sure, you got Arnold Palmer's the king. You've had your Tiger Woods, your Jack Nicklaus. You had people win more titles than him or whatever. One way or another, Arnold Palmer is the king of golf. And so that's what Vince thought was a gimmick turned into was my father was the king of wrestling, and they had King of the Ring after my father, and Haku and I think Savage and a couple different guys
Yeah.
had that crown and cape. But when they didn't, when they lost the crown and cape, they weren't called the king anymore.
Now you're right.
Um,
Yeah.
my father was referred to as, before the king, it was the boss or Mr. Race. Nobody ever called him Harley. None of the guys ever called him Harley.
Hmm.
Um, but then after he became the king, people just started calling him king, not the king, just king. Hey,
Yeah.
king, can you come over here and show me this? Or king, can that? So he just became the king of wrestling, which I think is deserved. And so I guess it kind of it didn't blow up in Vince's face, but it turned out not to be a gimmick.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But
And
you know
today
what?
still is known as the king of wrestling. He still is,
Yeah.
to
Oh,
anyone,
yeah. Because
even the
that's
rest.
how we. Right. When we did the advertisement, that's what we called them. When I put the thing up, the advertisement up on Facebook.
Mhm.
That's what I knew him as anyway. It's the King Harley Race.
Yeah. Well,
I
like
and you're right.
Haku was the king for a while. He wore the cape and crown, or the whatever you call it, and crown. And Haku's a wonderful man, tough as nails. I mean,
Oh
one
yeah.
of the
Oh
toughest
yeah.
guys next to my dad in the business. Um, but after that, no one calls him King Haku or King, but
No.
that's what they call my dad.
No.
So,
Yeah. I get what you're saying. It's like calling Elvis the
so
King
it's a
of
bit
Rock
of a
and Roll.
blessing, and it was a bit of a blessing and an honor in disguise.
Oh yeah.
And
Are you kidding?
and I think that my dad knew that was going to happen all along. That's why he agreed to it. Because the thing he hated most about being the king, and Harley language, carrying that goddamn crown all over airports and there. It was in a big box. I mean, it wasn't a collapsible
Yeah.
crown; it was a real crown, and it was in a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
And then the big robe. He hated carrying that stuff around.
I bet he did. I bet he did. When he had his belts, did he carry them around too, or did he pick them
Oh
up
yeah.
at the different arenas?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no. He carried it around. Yeah, they that the NWA title, the Dome Globe. That belt was in my house for the better part of a decade. I mean, I used to
Really?
wear it and run around the house.
That's crazy. Well, let me
Of
tell
course,
you
it was
something.
way too big for me to button, so I just have to like wrap it around my body. But yeah, I'd run around with it.
Well, your dad has so many accolades. Like your dad, like you said, just his name demanded respect. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
he's had numerous championships, and he's also been in
Right.
numerous Hall of Fames.
Yes.
Um, can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Um, I was there when he was inducted into a couple of them. One of the coolest ones was at the time, it was Newton, Iowa. Now it's in Waterloo. But he was inducted with Dan Gable and Danny Hodge. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Very
Uh,
cool.
he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think it was 2004.
Hmm.
And I went up there and was there, and it was kind of funny because um, there was, I don't know, 15 guys to be inducted, and you give those old guys a microphone and don't give them a time limit. Well, this event was supposed to go from like 7 to 9 or 7 to 10. We were still there at 2 o'clock in the morning. Those guys are yakking on and on and on.
Oh my God.
And all
That's
great stories. I
crazy.
mean, they were entertaining. It was just like by the time we left there, it was like, jeez, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
But that was a fun time. He made a good speech at that one. And then on October 13th, he will be inducted in the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Albany, New York. And I'll be
Wow.
flying up and accepting the the Hall of Fame ring, and and basically inducting my father into the Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, God
So
bless you.
that'll be
That is
cool.
wonderful.
Yeah, I get to make it like a 20. Well, they said 5 or 10 minutes, but if you want to speak for 20, speak for 20. So I get to
Well,
make a 20-minute
I'm,
speech about my dad.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sure you can with all the stuff that
Oh
you
yeah,
have to say about him. God,
yeah.
that's crazy.
It's not
We were
something I have to study for.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Now, how long have you been doing interviews about your dad? How long have you been doing podcasts and interviews and that type of thing?
Well, I mean, all my life on and on, but in the last couple of years, um, old school wrestling has really become popular again.
Yes, it has.
Um, and um, my father kind of is synonymous with old school wrestling. So,
Absolutely.
in the last couple of years, as technology has improved, I get kids that are 25 years old, and your dad's my favorite wrestler. I'm like, how do you know? You weren't even born when he retired. And well, YouTube. And I was, oh. So as I noticed this massive interest in my father from from older generations that watched him when he was Handsome Harley back in the 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
and then my generation who watched him kind of change from the NWA into the King, and then these kids that weren't even alive during any of this. There's all these different generations now that are interested in old school wrestling. I think they're getting a little sick of the 10-foot ladders in the ring, and back in Dad's day, Abdul the Butcher had a little knife or something hidden in his trunk, hidden in his
Yeah,
the
yeah,
belt that he wore, or what they had stuff hidden and you did behind the referee's back. Now they got it before the match starts. Is the 10-foot ladder sitting in the middle of the ring? It's like, what in the heck?
yeah. Well, it's
And
funny you should say that
so
because
I think people are getting a little tired of that, and they look and they see the the guys back then that just poured their hearts out into those matches.
well,
And
it's funny. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to say this because we've had our podcast is predominantly old school. Okay. Um, we started this podcast because of, people like your dad. And,
yeah,
we, people, you'd be surprised. That's why I said this is about stories. You'd be
yeah,
surprised how many people like to listen to the podcast because of that very thing. It makes them
yeah,
realize that wrestlers are human, you know. And like
yeah,
with, with
yeah,
your
yeah,
with your dad, like we've had a lot of older wrestlers here saying, that when they started wrestling, it was not like it is today. Obviously, you really hit each other. You really, did what you had to do. You really got involved, and like it was like you didn't even know what was going to happen until you got in the ring. So everything was
yeah.
like as it happened. Today it's scripted, it's rehearsed over and over and over again. But back then you can't change that. You can't replace that with anything. Um,
No. And the guys, you could see how the guys wrestled and how they worked, how much respect they had for the sport and the
exactly.
fans. I know it really makes me mad that some of these guys nowadays I hear are rude to their fans, and they just expect people to come and sit and pay them money and watch them.
Yes.
And my father worked his butt off to ensure that when people saw him one time, they would want to come and see him again. And
Exactly.
maybe the mean wrestling part of Harley, but also the Harley that walked out of the dressing room after the matches and signed autographs for everyone. The nice
Exactly.
gentleman that he was. So I think that part is missing a lot in the prima donnas we have nowadays in wrestling. That just I'm so and so, and the arena will be full because I'm so and so. And as Dad
Exactly.
said, his dad used to tell me I used to wrestle an hour a night. Now it takes him 20 minutes to get to the mat for a 5 minute match.
Like, and then they're tired after the 5 minute
Yeah,
match. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So in fact, the motto of his school was "Shut up and wrestle."
There you go. That's a good one. How long did he have at school?
Oh, about 20 years. I mean, a little over 20. I think he started in 1999 or 2000,
Okay.
somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's still going when he passed away. So he wasn't really. involved as much with it as he was getting older and ill. But
Yeah, yeah.
it was 20 years that he was quite involved in it.
Do you know? Can you mention any wrestlers that everybody would know that trained under him?
CM Punk.
Really?
Yeah, he went to dad's school.
Wow.
Um, uh, Trevor Murdoch.
Okay.
Um, both the Kevin Von Erich's boys, Marshall and Ross,
Oh,
went to dad's
really?
school. Yeah.
Oh my God. They're good. They are good wrestlers.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I
Yeah.
did a podcast with them. And I talked to him about 10 minutes before the podcast started. And, I can tell people that, it was difficult when you're a kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, watching your dad get hit over the head with a metal chair and blood flying everywhere. And you can tell people that. But when you talk to guys like Ross and Marshall, they know how it feels. So we met, talked for 10 minutes, and we're like family before the podcast even started because we
Oh,
knew where each other was coming from. I didn't have to explain it to them.
exactly. Exactly. That's perfect. Yeah. We're actually been trying to get one of them or both of them to do a podcast, but it's hard to reach out to people that unless you go through other people. It's like we have no way of contacting them. I've been trying. Maybe if you can reach them, you can ask them if they want to do it when you get a chance.
Sure. Yeah.
That
I
would be
talk to them
great.
every once in a while, but yeah, I'll mention it.
Yeah, that would
Now,
be
is
great.
So,
it?
and I assume also that I know who I've not seen in a long time. In up in Albany, Dusty Rhodes is being inducted with Dad, so I assume his son Cody will be up there. So I look forward to
Oh,
seeing him.
wow. Good. That's great. Yeah, I'd love to see him too. When is it again?
The 13th of October,
Okay.
which is a
All right.
Sunday.
Okay.
Hey, guess what? Here's a surprise for you. My mom just
What?
stopped by.
Oh, bring her. Can you bring her on?
You can't use yours. Put that in your left ear.
Oh,
I just
oh,
gave her
God
one of my
bless her.
earbuds.
I know. I saw you.
Hi there.
Hi, Mrs. Grace. How
Hi.
are you?
Hi.
This is my partner, Jeannie.
Hi,
Hi,
nice
Judy.
to meet you.
Oh my
I'm
God.
Ivana. Nice to meet you.
I'm so excited that, I can't believe you're here. Thank you. What an honor. This is wonderful. We got two for the price of one.
Yes.
This is
Yeah, how about
amazing.
that?
Can I,
Outage up here.
Yeah, I
I'm
told her.
sorry.
We have a
Okay.
network outage up here. Yeah.
Can I pick
Yeah,
your
we
brain
do.
a little
She
bit?
stops by and does. She just stops by and does. She'll pop in for a podcast every once in a while. But normally it's with a laptop. It's a lot easier than with this phone like this.
Oh, I would absolutely love to have both of you back again when you don't
Sure.
have the internet problems, But I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, can I pick your brain for just a second, if you don't
Sure.
mind?
Me or mom.
No, your mom for a
Oh,
minute.
okay.
Can tell us what was it like to be married to the king?
Uh, it was wonderful in one way, but a lot of problems, a lot of headaches. Wasn't fun at all.
Well,
It
I
was,
guess because he was
it
always
was,
out and working.
yeah, it was interesting, but not fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, Justin told us that you were quite the teacher, that you taught him his lessons when he went on the trips with you guys.
Uh-huh.
And he
Yeah.
said that he told us you're a very intelligent woman. And I think
Except
that's
she wouldn't let me cheat like the real teachers would.
No, she would never let you cheat. I can imagine that.
No, I was always trying to hide stuff under my notebooks and stuff. She's like, she'd make me like do my homework in the middle of the hotel room bed where I couldn't see anything else.
We were in Australia once, and I was telling him how to spell a word. He said, "That's not right." I said, "Justin, that is right." Oh, I wanted to just take his neck and.
Well, let me ask you this now. We heard from Justin, but he says you were the disciplinarian. Well, how was he as a young man? Was he a bad boy or was he a good boy?
No, he was a gentleman at the age of 4. He put my coat on. He took my hair out of my collar. Pulled his hair out. And
Did
I
he
taught him.
really?
Yes, he
Oh
did.
my God, that is so sweet. That is so
I
nice.
was opening the door for a lady before I could reach the doorknob.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my God. but I mean, we're like we're enjoying listening to this, and we're enjoying hearing all these stories. Like I'm, in wrestling, when you're a fan, it's called a mark. I guess you know that, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm marking out here right now because I'm like, oh my god, like I can't believe we're actually talking about Harley Race, and I'm seeing his family, and so it's like I was telling Justin that I've been involved in wrestling for 60 years, and I went from
60,
60.
60.
60. You
Yeah.
don't look
Yeah,
old enough to be 60.
That's what I thought.
Gee.
I'm 67 years old. I am.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
but when I was little, I was only 6 years old when we started to go
Yeah.
to the matches, and I went with my parents as well. And then
Yeah.
we did a thing where when the wrestlers didn't have a ride, and Justin can tell you too, because back then wrestlers had to make their own way. They had to pay their own way. They had to get their own hotels, their own travel. We used to bring them all to my house. My mom would cook. We'd have all this Italian food all night long, and my mom would
Good
cook and
heavens.
blah blah blah. And then when my mom passed away, she passed away at 48. She was very young and she was very sick. But when she passed away, I took over. And then I had them at my house and I started cooking. And, so that's how I really was involved. Then I became a promoter, and then I had my own talk show on the radio and blah, blah, blah. And then now I decided at 67, what the heck, let me just have a podcast. And now, like, I get to meet people like you guys, and Jeannie and I, like, we get so excited. It's like we're like little kids again. It's crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, but
cool.
this is
I'm
great.
glad I'm glad we could join you. It's very
Oh,
nice.
you don't know. You have no idea how glad we are. It's like we're just diving into the past here, And
Yeah.
wait till the fans see the podcast, they will like freak out. But I would love, and we have a lot more to talk about, but I would love one day when you're, like I said, when your internet gets better, if you and
Yep.
Justin would join us
Yeah.
again, I would love that.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
would
Anytime.
be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
You're talking about marking out, or is that how you put it? Marking.
Marking out, yeah.
I was always taught. Dad was, as we were talking earlier, the fans came first. In fact, he had three concerns when he wrestled. The first was the safety of the fans. The second was the safety of who he was wrestling, and the third was his own safety.
Wow.
And so he brought me up to look at fans as well, like, when we'd have dinner together, the three of us when I was younger, and, just go out to dinner at a local restaurant and want to just talk about school or whatever. And people would come up and ask for autographs. And sometimes it got a little annoying. And, mom would even say, I wish they'd wait till after we finished dinner at least or whatever. He always say, Yvonne, that person paid for this meal. That person paid for the vacation we just went on. That person is paying for Justin's college.
Exactly.
So you're nice to these people. And so he always told me, he sat me down when I was, I don't know, old enough to realize what he was talking about, probably 16, 17 or whatever, before I was in college. And he said, you're going to go through your life and a lot of people are going to recognize you or recognize me or recognize your name or whatever. And he said, unless you're late for work or you're going to the emergency room, stop and give them their 5 minutes.
Oh, God bless them.
Stories, let them ask their questions. Just give them their 5 minutes, because you know what? It's 5 minutes they'll never forget.
Exactly. And you know what? It's something that they don't get today. This is one of my peeves. I was saying that all the time. Like, these matches cost so much money, number one. And number two, the wrestlers have actually made it public. If I'm at the airport or if I'm having dinner at a restaurant, don't bother me. Honest to God, they have made it public like that. And
They've forgotten who pays their salary.
Exactly.
But that there again, why I got angry is because where is your manners? We are together such a short time, maybe 3 days a month, and maybe 2 dinners in a month. Yeah. And so they didn't understand my point either. And I understand where Justin's coming from. Of course, they paid for the meal, but
see, you have to look at it when you're a fan. The fans don't realize that. They don't think about, well, maybe this is their only dinner together, or maybe they haven't seen each other in 3 months.
Yeah.
In our minds,
they think more in the terms of, this is never going to happen to me again. I need to go and get an
Exactly.
autograph and shake. They don't know that you're going to go to that restaurant next week too, or in a month or whatever.
Right.
So,
Exactly. All they think about
but
is, oh my
when you're
God,
talking
there's
about
Harley
marking out,
Race.
I mean, it's such and because of that, it's more of an honor. I think when I meet someone, it's more of an honor that they know who I am or who my father is than they realize. I mean, I'm the one that's honored that
Yeah,
they,
but they don't realize
spent
that.
their childhood watching my father wrestle. So that's an honor to me.
Hmm.
And I mean, I've seen CEOs of business, government officials, whatever, when they find out who my father is, I've seen them, like the marking out thing, I've seen them just for a moment melt in front of my eyes into a little boy again
Yeah.
and start telling me about how they watched my dad with their dad on Saturday mornings when they were little kids. And here's this big, powerful guy, CEO of some company, and he becomes a little boy in front of me just for a moment.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that's an honor to me that I get to witness that.
Oh yeah. Well, you just saw Jeannie and I. We're sitting here like Jeannie can't even talk, But like it's crazy because he was such an icon. He had such a demeanor. He had such a following, and like I said, his just his presence demanded respect. And again,
Yeah.
like I told you, my father said, he's a nice guy. Come say hi. And I'm like, no, I was scared. I was too young. I didn't want to, and I was afraid. But I mean,
Well,
hardly.
he knew what it was. He knew what was expected and what it was, how to act like a champion. And he
Mhm.
taught a lot of guys. He taught Ric Flair how to be a champion, not just win the belt and carry the belt, but how to be a champion,
Well,
how
Ric
to
Flair must have
respect the
listened
fans.
because from what I was told, Ric Flair, he's done Ric Flair things. You know what I mean? But as
Yeah.
far as being a gentleman, like he always looked after the guys. He always introduced himself in the ring. He was. I don't believe I've ever seen Rick turn a fan away personally. So he
No.
learned. He listened to your father.
Yeah, he did. A lot of them did. The ones that did are the successful ones that will go down in history as legends or as icons of the sport. The ones that didn't listen to them are the ones that you don't know they wrestled 5 years ago and they quit and you don't know what their name was because you can't remember.
Exactly. Exactly. You never see them again.
No.
And every time
And they
anybody.
look back and they wish they would have stopped and signed those autographs. Like Dad said, you don't worry about it when they sign out when they want your autograph. You worry when they stop asking for your
When they
autograph.
don't,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's funny because when people like him, okay, do that for people, like you said, fans remember that. That's something that's very
Yes.
important. Fans remember the good and the bad, okay? And Harley Race, no matter what, in anything you hear iconic in professional wrestling, Harley Race's name has to be there somewhere, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for him to be the kind of man that he carried himself as, people to this day recognize that name, like you said, anywhere. And you're right, they still call him the king. I still call him the king. Jeannie still
Yeah.
calls him the king. You were going to
That's
ask
the
a
name of my
question, Jeannie.
that's the name of my book, Life
What
with a
book?
King. Oh, I'm writing a book.
Yeah, I didn't get to that
Oh,
yet.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, really?
Wow.
yeah, she's writing a book called Life with the King. I'm writing a book
Oh.
called Don't Tell Your Mother.
boy, I learned a lot over this last year.
Oh
Oh,
I
my
didn't.
God.
He said not to tell her, so I didn't, and I didn't really realize that I didn't all of my life.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and yeah, I'll be on a podcast and I'll tell a story, and she'll call me, or I'll see her a little later, or whatever. She's like, "You guys did what?" I was like, I didn't ever tell you about that. I'm 53.
I wonder what else is out there.
Yeah, I never told you about that. She's like, no. I said, well, he told me not to tell you, so I guess I never did.
Oh my God. Let me tell you
Wow.
something. Mothers always find out. My mother used
Yeah,
to always tell me that. My mother used to tell me that she had eyes behind her head.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
every time, yeah, she could see me everywhere. And I believed
yeah,
her. But
yeah.
I'm telling you, like, I want to know when the book is published, please.
Yes.
Oh,
I
sure,
definitely want to
sure.
buy it, and we're going to have you on again to promote the book.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I am excited just thinking about it. And, it's funny, we've had many wrestlers on the show. Many. We're on our 29th episode. And I got to
Oh,
tell you, again, I'm a professional. I've been involved in wrestling since I was 6 years old. I've been involved in wrestling for 60 years. I have met and done things I don't even want to talk about. But I am literally excited to talk to you about your father,
Thank you.
and your late husband, because like it's amazing. He had so many accolades, and I have to say that again. All the titles he had, all the Hall of Fames he was inducted into, being called the king, all the countries he visited, all the people he made happy, all the times he didn't say no to an autograph. This is prime. You have to understand, and I know you do understand it, but on the other side of the realm, on the other side of the table, when a fan sees this, it's crazy. Like now, if you go to a WWE show, let's say, and you're going to see a wrestler and you get paid for an autograph or a picture, you're not allowed to even be next to the wrestler anymore, right, Jeannie? There's
Right.
usually a table between you. The wrestler sits behind the table, and you either sit or stand in front of the table, and that's how the picture's taken. You're not
Oh.
allowed to stand
And they
next to the.
want money for it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
two, three, $400. It's
Yeah.
not cheap, and that's
Yeah.
crazy. And not to mention the tickets, But like back then, and that's why we love these stories all the time, because back then, people don't realize, they don't understand what it was like back then. They don't understand how these wrestlers had to scrounge and scrape and save, and how they, like in your case, had families that traveled with them. Their children couldn't go to school like everybody else. They were traveling with them. And in one way, it's like you missed out on maybe a couple of things, but in another way, it's amazing that you got to see the world and you got to
Yeah.
see it with Harley. I mean, Harley Race, I mean, it's not like it was Joe Blow from Windy City, We're
Yeah.
talking Harley Race. I mean, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. And you got to be super, super proud of that, Justin.
Yeah, I am. Like I said, I was very blessed. I mean, I'm still blessed, but growing up as a kid, it's a very unique way to grow up. The Chiefs, they have 60 guys on the team or whatever, and they all have a couple of kids. So there's 120 kids that their fathers basically do the same thing. They play football.
Yeah.
But golfers, swimmers, the individual sports, that's a unique childhood in itself, because again, it's just your father or mother competing against
Mhm.
everyone else. Um, but it's wrestling is such an emotional sport. People get so emotional about wrestling. I remember when we'd leave an arena or auditorium, stadium, whatever, especially in the Carolinas, like or the Flair territory,
Mhm.
and we'd leave out the back, and there'd be police officers, a ring of them around us with their riot shields over us, and you could hear rocks and knives and
Oh
parking
my
lot debris,
God.
whatever, throwing them at. At the time, I thought it was cool. It was like Secret Service. We're getting ushered to our car, and then we get in the car and just peel out of there. No speed limit, didn't matter. And but as I got older, I'm like, these people are throwing rocks at a 7-year-old child and his mother because they're standing next to his dad. These people are crazy.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
And so that's the most, the wrestling fan has the most is the emotion. I mean, even in real big rivalries in football, like the Raiders and the Chiefs. Well, the fans don't throw rocks at the Raiders when they leave Arrowhead Stadium.
No, they just fight with the fans. They beat each other up,
Yeah.
because they argue
There
with
might
them.
be a fight here and there, but I mean, there's not a pure, just absolute hatred. You're at the
Mhm.
Chiefs game and you see a guy in a Raiders uniform, and yeah, you jostle him a little bit back and forth, but you end up drinking a beer together, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
But in wrestling, I mean, fans, if they hate you, they hate you. They hate your family. They hate everything.
Yeah,
And
you're
if
right.
they like you the same way. And it's a
Absolutely.
very unique sport. So
That's one thing I didn't like about the way Harley wrestled. I always wanted him to be a baby face
Right.
because of that. I didn't want the kids to make fun of Justin because he was, the heel.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I didn't like that. I wish he would have always been a baby face.
but he knew what putts. He was good at it. And he knew what put butts in seats. People
yeah.
love to hate him. They
Yeah.
love to hate him. They still love
Yeah.
to hate him to this day.
He
They say,
knew
I
that.
hate him. They
Yeah,
say I hated your dad all of my childhood, but now looking back, I really respect him.
well, that's just it. It's one thing to hate because you're ignorant or rude. It's another thing to hate but respect at the same time. So I don't think in reality when they do realize that they really did hate him. I mean, it just was like that anger that what was going on and everything. It's like,
Except for the ones throwing rocks. I'd put those in the rude and ignorant
yeah,
category.
that's true. That's true.
I
Yeah, but
kind of
people,
think that down south was a little bit worse
Yes. I agree.
because I remember seeing tapes of your dad and the fans against the Von Erichs. I think it was David Von Erich, if I'm not mistaken, and just the fans go nuts for their boys. Anybody goes against those Von Erichs, they would come after them. Same in Georgia and Florida. Like
Yeah,
those
that's
fans
just
are
definitely a
crazy.
southern thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the heat.
It's all real to them, It's like, yeah. I mean, they were crazy down south.
yeah.
It's too darn cold in Minnesota to get mad.
Yeah.
But like you said, you were right. The love was real and the hate was
Yeah.
real. You know,
Yeah.
and if they got to share a minute with that person, the love or the hate could turn to love real quick. You
Oh, it
know,
does.
Yeah.
definitely, because it was like, wow, he's a bad guy, he's a heel, but wow, he was so nice to me.
The
And
only time I've ever really gone through like not being liked because of my father, when I was wrestling as a little boy, started wrestling when I was 7. And you remember the little kids, the little the little kids oh sure.
that's right. We're back.
Your kids wrestling when they have the gym. It's in the high school gymnasium, but there's like 8 matches going on at one time. And
Yeah,
every time I wrestled, especially when I first started, I guess it kind of wore off after a number of years. But the entire gymnasium would focus on my match. They'd yell and taunt me and call me names and chant for the other kid. Didn't matter who I was wrestling. It was just he could beat Harley's kid. And they chant against me and
wow.
yell. And I'd look at my dad. I'm like, Dad, why are they yelling at me? He said, it's because of me. Just go out there and kick their butt. All right. So that was the only time I've ever felt disrespected was then. I was like, this is taking you a little too far. You're booing an 8-year-old.
Yeah, you
I
can't
didn't
do
think
that.
about it at the time. At the time, again, I thought it was kind of neat. But then looking back over my life and as I get older, I'm like, man, these people are, this little taking a little overboard here.
A little crazy,
Oh,
yeah, a little crazy. Well, I remember when I had my radio show in the '80s. I had a little girl at the time who was only like 2 or 3 years old, and I would take her with me, like you're saying about the same thing with your dad. And if we need a wrestler like Ric Flair or Baby Doll or Ricky Steamboat, Magnum TA, any of them, and she wanted to go say hi to them, before I would let her, I would say a little bit loudly, I would say, well, we'll see. Maybe Mr. Flair will let you say hi to him and he'll be real nice. And then he would look at me and he'd shake his head and I'd let her go, because if I ever let my little 2 or 3-year-old girl go up to a wrestler or anybody and have them be rude, I'd probably wind up in jail, because that wasn't happening. All right. But again, you have to understand, of course, when you're in the spotlight, no matter which way you're in the spotlight, you also have people that like or don't like you, depending, like with the podcast, depending on what you say, what you do, people listen and they get very critical sometimes. You got to be able to take that. But I got to tell you, though, it's got to be probably, I mean, I know for you and your mom, it was different. He was your dad, you looked up to him, you were the little kid, but your mom was married to him and she got to see everything from a different perspective. You know what I mean? And she felt for both of you. And I know because I'm a mom, and she felt for both of you. And she knew what she wanted the family to be like. And sometimes it doesn't always like that, and it does hurt. But as far
I
as
can
like,
understand that. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I'm aware of that, I should say.
That's
yeah,
true.
but that doesn't take anything away from him as being a man
No,
or a good person. It just was hard. It's very hard. And
I saw him in a different limelight. I saw him in a different way than other people do.
Well,
Exactly.
mom mentioned a while ago that she didn't like my dad being a heel because she didn't want me to be made fun of or whatever. I
Right.
was fortunate enough to grow up in the same school district from second grade on till graduated from high school.
Good.
So a lot of my friends that were, that I met in second grade and went all the way, we knew each other for all those years, and
Right.
they grew up with my dad. And so my father was not, I said that all the wrestlers called him the boss, Mr. Race or King. The only people really on earth that called my dad Harley was my friends.
Yeah. And
And
that's right.
he was just to them, he wasn't a wrestler, a bad guy, good guy, whatever. He was the guy that with my mom in the morning made chocolate chip pancakes for us after a sleepover.
Aw. See, that's
So,
nice.
it was no big deal to them. Now,
No.
it was funny when a new kid would move into the district and they'd say, they'd tell this new guy that who my dad was, and now you don't want to go over to his house if his father's there. His father's me.
Oh
And
no.
then of course this is all planned out. And then of course on my way they'd say they were let's go by Justin's. Now his dad's there, so just try not to look at him and be on your best behavior. Well, the poor kid had a little wet spot in his pants before he ever got to the door. And dad,
Oh
he'd
my
open the door.
God.
He'd open the door and he'd walk in, and I'd have my dad walk kind of come around the corner and look at him, give him one of those promo looks, and the
Oh,
kid just dad.
Justin.
And within 30 seconds, Dad had him laughing, and we had a good
Oh,
old
that's
time.
good.
Yeah, we had
Well,
fun with the new kids that moved into the school district.
yeah, I get that because, like I said, when I was little and I saw your dad, he scared me. And I think but he was never mean, never. Like
No.
I said, he was friends with my father, but I just because I was little, I mean, I wasn't real little, but I was younger, and I was like a little bit afraid. I was never like around quote unquote the bad guys, the heels too much. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was a little scary. But he was a good man from what I understand. My father, I told you, said, no, he's fine. But it was great. We had a lot of respect for him and a lot of respect for a lot of the wrestlers from back then.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't know them on a personal level like you do. We only know what we saw, or the wrestlers that came to my house, we only knew
Yeah.
what we saw when they were there. But it's so interesting to hear what it's like to actually live with somebody, and it makes you wonder, like, what was this like? What was that like? Did he put on his shoes and socks at the same time, or did he do one foot first or the other foot? These are things people want to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
That's why
funny
I've tried
because
to. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm just saying, like it's just it's funny because as a mom, Mrs. Race, as a wife, for like, did you say to him, put on the scarf so you don't get too cold, or and he say like, oh, don't bother me with that stuff. I'm a big boy, and these are things that the fans like. These are things that go through people's heads. I'm telling you, you know. And they're like, what was he like? How did he drive? Did he go fast? Did he go slow? Uh-oh.
Mach 3 at all times.
Oh my God. See?
Um.
That's
Well,
what
that's
people
why.
want to hear.
Well, that's what I try to do with my posts on Facebook or Instagram or what have you. Is if you want to see him wrestle, you can Google him or go to YouTube or whatever, and you can see pretty much any match he's ever wrestled. Almost,
Oh
it's
yeah,
amazing how much is out
yeah.
there. Or if you want to get into the gossip, the fan gossip. Oh well, I heard they did this in the dressing room, that dressing. There's plenty of places to do that. But when
Yes.
I post generally family pictures. Me when I was very young with my parents or my dad or whatever, in situations that might be normal for a lot of people, but is a little bit different because of my father. Like snow skiing out in Colorado or whatever. They don't think of this big bear of a man putting a couple pieces of fiberglass on his feet and going down a hill. Uh,
See what I mean? Exactly. That's
So, what he was like on Saturday nights, I even say this a lot. I don't talk about wrestling, but I will tell you what he was like watching cartoons with me on Saturday morning.
I was just going to ask you that. Did he watch cartoons with you? I was
Oh, yeah.
just going to ask
I was
that.
forced to watch his John Wayne movies. He better watch cartoons with me.
See, I love John Wayne
And
movies.
black
Oh
and
my
white
God, I would
cowboy
have
and
been great
Western
with you
movies.
guys.
There was a
Did,
time though that he wanted to be with Justin, but yet he wanted to go golfing because we lived on the golf course.
Oh,
And he
okay.
was known as the father of Leewood when we lived in this exotic town. And
Uh-huh.
I'd say, Justin, Harley, why don't you go play football with Justin? Well, I want to go golf. I said, Justin
Oh,
can't golf. So, I mean,
oh.
Well, I've
we
learned.
were torn apart there. But he was a
Oh.
good father.
Yeah, from listening to Justin, he sounds like he was a very good father, and
Yeah.
he was like, like we said, he just owned respect. He really did. And like I said before, your relationship with him is a whole different ball game. I get that. I do. I dated several wrestlers, some of them for quite a long time, so I know what that part of it's like. Um, but to us, to children, to fans, to other people on the outside, we don't know that part. So we always look at the wow, what did
Yeah.
he skate? Really? Was he a good skier? Did he ever fall down? Did he ever, those kind of things people like
Well,
to,
I always tell people, when my dad, along with a baseball player named Dan Quisenberry, played for the Royals. Were how they make people like honorary chairman of the MS Society or the
yes,
muscular dystrophy or whatever. They don't do anything. They just go and make speeches and
right,
attract a lot of rich people to the place to watch them speak, and then donations, and that's what the charity gets its
right.
donations. And one of the first times I was ever in a limo that had a telephone in it. Um, I mean, well, the first time they picked us up in a limo and they're taking us down to one of these black tie events. And I asked the driver, he said, yeah, go ahead. I'm calling all my friends. Yeah, I'm calling you from the car. I'm really in the car. I swear to God, I'm in the
Aw,
car. And my mom and dad were arguing the whole way. I don't know about what, but they were just, argue, 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 argue. But when we got there and the door opened and the flash bulbs started going off, it was a big smile, and we're the happy race family.
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh
And
yeah, I
and
get it.
so when you watch those people, when you're watching the Academy Awards and they get out and they walk down the red carpet or whatever, you have no idea what was happening in that limousine 10 minutes before that door opened.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. You have no idea who they talked to, what they said, how they felt. Nobody
How
knows.
much
As
of it,
long as
if they were in a fight, if they
yeah,
were about ready to get divorced or about ready to get married, or, that
yeah.
you had no idea what happened before that limo door opened.
Or
And
their
I
their
do,
their child
I do
dropped an
know
ice
what
cream
happened.
cone in the limousine and just got hollered at.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, you
One of
don't
them
know.
just spilled a big glass of champagne all over their pants and they had to change pants in the limo. I mean, you don't know what happened.
That's true. You're
So,
absolutely right.
so from that point of view, I kind of do know what happened in the limousine before it opened and the flash bulbs went off.
Yeah, I get
It
that. I
wasn't
know.
always pretty. It wasn't always pretty.
No, no. But you know what? That shows that you had a regular family. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I know.
You had
Yeah,
a
we're just
family just
human.
like the rest of us did, but your father was Harley Race.
Mhm.
That's the big difference.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Well, I know I told you an
but at
hour, and I
home,
know
at home he might have been Harley Race, but at home he and I were both scared to death of my mother. So
ah, see, I'm not surprised. I'm not
Good for her. Good for her.
yeah, that's right. Look, we can go on all night. It's up to you. I'm not going to cut
oh
you
no,
off.
that's okay. Yeah, I need to get some things done, but I really did enjoy talking. Or we enjoyed talking
Yes.
with
Oh,
you.
me too.
Great.
Me too.
I can't even
And
begin to tell you. Definitely, please, please come back. I promise we'll wait till you get more internet options going, and then we'll
oh
be able
yeah,
to
that'll
do
be
it.
fixed by tomorrow. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
keep in touch with me, and we'll do another thing with my mom and
Oh,
I. A little more.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I will.
definitely want more stories. Want to hear about the books and
Yeah, yeah.
everything.
Well, and you be prepared more for her to be on, so we kind of
Yeah,
threw that at you.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd
Thank
rather have her sitting down, and we see your beautiful
you. Yeah.
face because it's getting dark over there now.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say I'm getting closer and closer to the camera because I can't. There's no light. Um, but yeah, we'll stay in touch and we'll do this again
thank
soon,
you.
and then we'll make sure and do it. Around the book. When we know more about the book release.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Race. I can't thank you enough.
Yes, thank you,
It has
thank
been
you.
an incredible honor to meet you and to see you here, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. Justin, has been an incredible honor to have you on. I'm
Well,
so
thank you very
grateful that
much.
you did this for us. And again, the
The
whole world
pleasure
should
and honor
know.
is mine. The pleasure and
Thank
honor is
you.
mine.
You're a
Aw.
sweet man, and you're a sweet lady. Mwah. God bless you. All right,
Mwah.
we're
Okay.
going to take you
God
off now because
bless.
we have to finish
Thank
the
you all,
show.
folks. Thank you, everyone out there watching.
God bless you.
Bye.
Love you. Bye. Oh my goodness. What a show. Oh my God.
What a
I can't.
guy.
I am
What a
beyond
family.
excited.
Oh my Lord. Oh
What
my Lord.
what a
That was
beautiful,
a
beautiful show.
surprise, wasn't it? When she
Yeah, and
came
having his
on?
mom on. Oh my God,
An
I'm so
amazing
excited.
surprise.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then she's going to do the book. We're going to have them both back on.
Oh,
You know what? I think everybody has to listen twice. I really
yeah.
do, because there's
Yeah.
so many cool things on here. But let's do some of our announcements real quick too.
Mhm.
Last week we had Joel Goodhart on with Tony Stetson, and we talked about what the big announcement was. It's the wrestling card coming up at the 2300 Arena.
One and
May,
done.
right, one and done, May 3rd of 25. You guys have got to come. You have got
Yeah.
to come. Joel announced the TWA people that are going to be there in the house, as he kept putting it. You don't know who else is going to be there, but we do.
We do.
Yeah. And a little bit at a time, we're going to come back and we're going to let you know, because Joel's going to come back a few more times and we're going to let him spill the beans all over the place. So you got to keep listening. You got to keep in touch, and you got to keep that date open, because we're
Yes.
going to have
And you also
a
have to sign the petition for the
exactly.
banner, because the people who have already signed, I already signed, I'm going to get a email on October 3rd.
I think so. Yeah.
So in a couple of days, giving the me the option to purchase the tickets before anybody else.
And
for
me.
both the
And
Rassle,
me.
yes, for the WrestleCon and for the show.
Exactly.
Everybody else, the general public who didn't sign the petition, tickets go on sale on the 5th, this Saturday. So sign that petition and you get first dibs on tickets.
Did you hear what she said? Sign the petition and you
Yes.
get first dibs on the tickets. And if you have a friend, if you've already signed it, you have a friend, you have an ex-husband, you have neighbors, you have people that are scared of you, I don't care. Make somebody else sign the petition, okay? And, because it would be a terrible thing to have this big show and not have 1,000 signatures. That's
If you got
all we
5
need.
kids, make them all go on.
All
and
of them, everybody, sign. That's what we need. And we're going to have so many guests in the upcoming weeks.
Yes.
Jeannie, we are booked right now straight through to the end of December, and forward.
Yeah.
We're so excited. We have so many cool things to show you, so many cool things to tell you. You can never miss this podcast ever.
No.
And you have to subscribe. You have to tell your friends, and you're going to hear it first. All of it. You're going to hear everything first here. Also, Jeannie and I talked about it. We are going to do an additional podcast because we are so booked. We're going to do an additional podcast on Mr. McMahon. I know, but we talked about it, and I'm not going to let too much time go by. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss. Like I said, I was there. Okay, I wasn't in the back with Vince McMahon. No. I was there in a lot of other avenues where a lot of what I say when I tell you will make some of what he said clearer. Okay. So yeah, I was there for a lot of things. So that's going to be big, and we're going to talk about that. Jeannie, I'm excited as hell. I can't wait.
I know.
Tonight I did. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm worked out bad. I did. I'm sorry, but I don't care. It was so cool.
You were fine. You were fine.
I can't. And to see Harley Race's wife, too.
I know. And he looks so much like him. He's handsome, just like
he is
like his
handsome,
dad.
just like his father. Exactly. He does look like him.
And his mother.
Yeah, she's beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
woman. And she's. We're going to be here for the book.
Yes.
Joel's got a book coming out. Mrs. Race has a book coming out. We're going to be one of the first groups to ever be able to tell you this. So you better listen, and you better come back.
Yes.
All right, Jeannie, God bless you. I love you, girl.
Love you too.
We will be in touch, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I love you so much.
Love you.
Mwah.